Welcome into the Skinny Podcast. It's the weekly Potpourri edition. I'm Richard Skinner, Local12.com digital sports columnist and editor with Rick Brewing. As always, it's presented by Blake, the attorney Maislin. It is Super Bowl week, and we got a lot of that to talk about. We've got some college basketball to talk about, a big Reds move to talk about, a little bit of Bengals to talk about as well. And Rick, I didn't know if I was going to have enough energy for this podcast. I got to gear back up for a Super Bowl party Sunday. I mean, that Pro Bowl party that you threw, my gosh almighty, that was quite the event.
Hey, I really appreciated that you came by.
Yeah,
that was just off the chain. What a party it was!
But what a game! I mean, how could you miss that game?
Gosh, out of all the Pro Bowls that I've watched, I'd say that was probably the most thrilling.
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, you give me a Pro Bowl like that, I'll be glued to the TV every single time.
I'll get your opinion on that here a little bit more coming up.
Sure.
We got to start with the Reds, though, Skinny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rare that we can do it this time of year, so we've got to do it right now. They made a major offseason addition by signing veteran third baseman / designated hitter Eugenio Suarez to a 1-year, $15 million contract with a mutual option for the 2027 season. Suarez is coming off a 2025 year where he hit 49 homers, recorded 118 RBIs, playing both for the Diamondbacks and the Mariners. He also hit for a very low average and didn't have a very good on-base percentage, but that's not what we're talking about right now, Skinny. We're fired up because the Reds finally made an addition. How big of a needle mover is Eugenio Suarez?
Yeah, if he's the guy that you got at least a little bit of last year, I'm not expecting 49 home runs like he hit last year. And you could argue that at 34 years old after the trade, he slashed. Well, his OPS was under 700. He did hit 13 home runs in 53 games, which is a pretty good pace over the course of a year. That would still be 40 homers. But I think it's a real big addition for a couple of reasons. I just think it gives you that big bat in the middle of the order you need to protect Elly De La Cruz, to bounce a Spencer Steer down a notch. To now you can hope for the following without these hopes having to come to fruition. You can hope Sal Stewart is a bona fide power bat. You can hope Elly bounces back, and that's he didn't have a bad year, but obviously from a power perspective, that he becomes that 30 home run plus guy. That Spencer Steer with a healthy year is a 25 to 30 home run guy. That Matt McClain, you can hope for all these things. Before you hope for all these things, and that's all you had was the hope. Now you've got a legit bat in the middle of the lineup that I just think it gives Terry Francona a lot of flexibility. Like, can you play against lefties a Sal Stewart at first, put Steer out in left field, Suarez DHs, and TJ Field's your only left-handed bat in that lineup? I mean, you've got a lot of things you can do with this. If Ke'Bryan Hayes doesn't hit at all, let's just say he doesn't, then, maybe Eugenio Suarez gets some starts at third base and Ke'Bryan Hayes becomes a very expensive but a late-inning defensive substitute. So kudos to the Reds front office for this. I didn't think they were going to be able to pull it off. They got it at a very reasonable price, the 1-year $15 million with a mutual option for 2027 with no buyout in there, no buyout clause in there. So listen, I wrote a column, and I think if you're going to rip a team when they don't do anything, I think you got to give you a tip of the cap when they do something. And while it wasn't Kyle Schwarber, it wasn't Pete Alonso, it's a legitimate power bat, and I tip of the cap to them. It's something they had to do, and they did it.
The more I think about this deal, the longer I took and let it settle in, the more I think, realistically, I think this is about as good as we could have expected the Reds to do this offseason, period.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'll make the argument, I think this is a better deal than getting Kyle Schwarber.
From a price perspective and all that thing. And
how much money you're committing to a guy who's late in his career with a big body, power bat, who's he's one hip, one back, one knee away from never being able to get close to those power numbers again at the age and size that he plays at.
Now he does draw a lot of walks, so he does some other things
more valuable.
That doesn't do. But to your point, from a value perspective, I completely agree with you.
He's a better offensive player. There is no question about that. But I made the argument at the time, should the Reds really be committing that type of money to a guy like Schwarber who's that late in his career for multiple years? A 1-year deal with a guy like Suarez is ideal for this team, in my opinion. Now, is he enough to actually get them over the hump when he's going to be hitting under 230 with an on-base percentage that's somewhere or in that same range? No, probably not. But when he's going well, he's a guy that actually changes your lineup. He actually fixes your glaring weakness. And somewhat he does provide some protection for Elly De La Cruz on an everyday basis in your lineup, which is the one thing that we really talked about the most last year and into the offseason that you had to fix. So is it going to be enough to get you over the hump? Is it going to be enough to solidify you as a playoff team. I don't know about any of that because I do think he has a lot of holes in his game still, but this is probably a ballpark that suits his game the best.
It does. I mean, his career OPS in Great American Ballpark's 858, and he homered one time every 18 plate appearances. So it is a ballpark that suits him. Now, that was more in his, I shouldn't say his prime. That was, he was a little bit younger, but yeah, this is a ballpark he's very comfortable hitting in.
Yeah, and he's the ideal clubhouse type guy. I mean, you're bringing in a guy that makes your clubhouse better. There's no issues from that perspective. The more I think about it, the more I just have to look at it and say, good job. Yeah. Like I said, I don't know if it's enough to get you where you want to go, but it's about as good as I think you could have done. And I saw MLB Network, I think it was Lance just tweeted this out, that MLB Network just ranked him number 9 in their list of top 10 third basemen. Like, Elly De La Cruz is number 9 at his position too. You know what I mean? So if you're adding a guy that's basically as good as anyone on your team at their position from an outside perspective, I think you got to feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. The other part too is, okay, look, this was an 83-win team last year that had guys underperform through injuries, various whatever reasons. And again, I think it's fair to expect an improvement from Elly De La Cruz from a power perspective because he's healthy. Same for Steer. Again, the jury's still out on Matt McClain, but what if we get 2023 Matt McClain and you've added Suarez's bat and you've improved your bullpen and you're multiple deep at starting pitching to the point where a Chase Burns may not even make this team coming out of spring training. So you've improved on an 83-win team that had room for improvement as it was. And so I think this is a team that is a scary one when it gets to the playoffs. Hopefully it's not another, best of 3 series. You get a little bit deeper into it. Are you the Dodgers? No, nobody's the Dodgers. Their roster's ridiculous. But you have the pitching that maybe can get them in a short series. So we'll see. I just think you've improved on a playoff team, and granted they snuck in a little bit, on let's just go on an 83-win team. You've improved this with even more room for improvement with guys, rounding back into form.
Yeah, there's still the upside and the hopium that we were talking about, but it's no longer just that. You actually improved your roster, fixed one of your biggest issues, and they're just getting my level of excitement going into opening day, had they not made this move, was going to be about a -5.
Yeah.
Now there's a legitimate reason to be excited as a Reds fan. It's not because Eugenio Suarez is this massive difference maker that's going to change everything, but to your point, it just kind of bumps everybody down a peg, makes everything a little bit more realistic for this team, that if things go the right way, maybe you do have a special year. Maybe you can catch lightning in a bottle with your pitching staff and a couple of guys have a career year or start to, Mac McClain gets his career back on track. All of those things just feel like a more legitimate possibility now that you did add a big power bat in the middle of your lineup. The Reds win total, I just checked it this morning, still sits at 82.5 games. What are your feelings on that?
I mean, do we think this is a better club right now than it was last year?
Yes. I mean,
okay, that sounds like an easy answer, right?
I don't know how you don't feel good about taking the over on 82.5 right now, right?
Yeah, I can't believe that doesn't get bumped up a little bit.
I would think it's going to, but I just checked it before we went on. I'm still seeing 82.5. So the only other question I have for you is Nick Krall. He's taken a ton of abuse, and probably rightfully so at times, or at least he's the guy that's agreed to have that mark on him. He's in charge of putting together this roster, and I think it's fair to say it hasn't always been good. What do you say about Nick Krall going to the front office and being able to get them to spend a little bit more money to get a guy like Suarez here?
Kudos to you, man. You did a good job with adding to the bullpen. You added back of the roster depth in the outfield that unfortunately you thought for a few weeks were going to have to be a platoon starting situation. And now you don't. I mean, now that's not the case. And so, again, I know he's dealing with financial constraints, and I'm not going to back off the fact that I think they're full of crap that they were in the Kyle Schwarber market and that they were going to, that they offered Elly the greatest contract in the biggest contract in Reds history, whatever the heck that means. I thought those were both PR stunts, if you will. Yeah. But to what he did to add to this team, where you thought they're not going to add a legit power bat, they did.
The only part of this that does bother me a little bit, and again, I'm happy with them getting Eugenio Suarez. He's the best they could do at this point for what they needed. but it does crack me up that the only two guys that they were willing to spend the money on was Kyle Schwarber because he was a local guy and Eugenio Suarez because he's been here before and the fans love him. It's like, it's just such a fan mentality of how we put together the roster here. Those are the only two guys you're willing to overspend on is guys that you have familiarity with and already like.
And I would say sometimes the easy move to make is the right move to make. This was an easy move to make at that price, and it was also the right move to make.
Yeah, and let's be clear, I think Suarez took a hometown discount to.
I think. He did.
He calls this home, so I guess we can say hometown here.
He absolutely did.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on the Reds here?
No, I think this now gives you a lot of reason for excitement, and as I mentioned, I mean, just the upside of some of the players and the bounce back possibilities of some of the players, and now a legit power bat. It makes that lineup solid now. And even if, let's just say, Gino goes through slumps. Maybe Sal Stewart is a legit power bat, and you bat him fourth instead. I mean, you've got a lot of flexibility lineup-wise. You got a lot of flexibility position-wise. Again, Key Brian Hayes might wind up being the most expensive late-inning defensive replacement ever, but you know what else you can do now? You can carry a 240 hitting Key Brian Hayes bat at the bottom of your lineup.
Yeah, that move still makes me mad, but it feels less impactful now that you have more flexibility there.
Yep.
The Reds did also, I should mention, did figure out a new TV platform. MLB TV is going to be handling the production of their games, but it's going to be shown on local TV, correct, Skinny?
Yeah, but there's no real details yet. The only thing was it's going to cost about $100 for a season for streaming, $20 a month if you want to go monthly with it, and maybe some fans do. But we don't know, where's the streaming going to take place? Where is the local TV channel going to be that you're going to find it on? None of those particulars are set yet, and that to me is why. I mean, this was always the move. I know the Reds made this some news to some degree, but there really wasn't much new to this. They pulled out of their rights with FanDuel, as did 6 or 7 other teams weeks ago, and MLB was always going to do the production, and they came out with this big thing of here's how we're going to do it. Well, where is it going to be? Can you help us with that?
I guess the thing is, if you commit to the MLB TV, it's more of like a revenue share model than them committing a bunch of money to you up front, right? That's the way I understand it. So that's why the teams hold out. They want one of the media partners to offer them the big deal up front, and they know what's coming in. I just think we're past that point. I think the best thing that they can do, and you and I talked about this, if it's on my cable provider, which I assume it will be because I pay for cable, I'm not buying this. If it wasn't, I'm just not going to pay the $100. Maybe you would get enough subs to make the revenue worthwhile. Maybe they find out after all of this, to hell with you, cable. We're not getting enough from you. We're just going to do all streaming. And they may do that. The release said that it's going to be streamed in local market. I mean, it's going to be shown on TV in local markets. So it just didn't say where. So we'll wait to see what comes out about that. I do believe the streaming will be just MLB TV. I think that
would be my guess too. Yes.
Yeah, where they handle all of that. So, all right, we'll continue to stay updated on that. But some news for optimism here about the Reds all of a sudden. For at least 10 days at the beginning of the season, we can do our opening day celebration. We can watch them start 2-8 before we lose all hope, and we'll be excited for a week and a half.
And we are 5 days from pitchers and catchers reporting.
There you go. All right. College basketball. Let's start off with the Wildcats, Skinny. They're playing some good ball right now. They won at Arkansas over the weekend, 85-77, beat that evil John Calipari, and then they smashed Oklahoma at home, 94-78 on Wednesday night. To me, I feel like I've talked about him too much this season already, so I apologize for this, but Otega Oweh is the key right now for them. Yeah. You need your best players to play well. He came in the year as a preseason player of the year candidate, didn't play at all like it through the first half of the season. Now he's starting to look like it again. And wow, Kentucky's looking like a team that could contend all of a sudden. He had 24 points in both of these games, 8 rebounds at Arkansas. He was 3 for 4 from deep against Oklahoma. He also had 3 assists and just 1 turnover in each of those games. He scored 20 or more in each of the last 4 games, Skinny.
Yeah. I can't excuse the Vanderbilt performance, but you see it sometimes in leagues. You go on the road against a good team, and I think we'd agree. I think Vandy's 13th or 14th in KenPom. I mean, they're legit good. I mean, the metrics even back all that up. They were struggling a little bit at the time, and so you didn't expect the outcome, the score, to be what it was. But now when you look at this stretch since the miracle down in LSU, I mean, they've strung together a really nice stretch of basketball for the most part, other than an outlier. Vandy now looks more like the outlier than anything else.
Do you think there's some, I hate to always just go back to like the changing landscape and the transfer portal and NIL has ruined everything, but do you think there's something to the idea, and I'm referencing the Vanderbilt game with this, that because players don't have as much time together They don't have guys who have been together multiple years. They haven't fought through adversity. They haven't had those comebacks together. That sometimes when you get down, like in a road game like Vanderbilt, and you start, like, I see a lot of fans complain about lack of effort from their favorite teams this year. And doesn't matter which team you're watching. I hear it from UK fans. I hear it from Xavier fans. I hear it from NKU fans. I've seen it from UC fans. They're all saying the same things when their team doesn't play well. And to some extent, that's just how fans react to poor performances. But in some regards, I think I see what they're seeing. And I just wonder, is that a lack of like continuity and ability to fight through these things to where you're seeing more blowouts? Like once you get down on the road, you can't get yourself out of that.
I would agree with that, except for the fact that the two of the previous games before that, within like a 2-week span, was at LSU when you came back from 17 down, and at Tennessee where you came back from 18 down, or vice versa. So you had 2 comebacks on the road to win games. So that this team has shown it can do it. Sometimes sometimes on nights you just get your ass kicked, and there's not a thing you can do about it.
Yeah, that's true. I definitely agree with that. And to your point, it's not like these teams haven't shown the ability to come back. It just seems like there's these games this year, and it's happening more frequently than I can recall, where team gets, like Creighton the other night at UConn just gets their doors blown off from the start. I see them get down. I'm like, oh, let's bet that live line. It's plus 18 and a half. They ain't going to lose by 18 and a half, and they lose by 20 or more or whatever it is. And UK, same thing at Vanderbilt. Xavier's had some instances like that. Obviously, the UConn game this weekend, I think they're just completely overmatched in that game. But still, I do think there's something weird about this quote unquote lack of effort that fans are seeing from their teams. I do think that there seems to be a tendency for teams to just kind of break down and they don't really, you don't have that camaraderie or that, like, I'm not a big rah-rah guy, but the body language and just detachment from some teams seems pretty bad at times. But I'll get back to Kentucky here. Do you think the Wildcats are turning a corner at this point? What we've seen over the last 5 or 6 games?
I do, because I think you see some fight to that point. I think you saw them really fight at Arkansas. I mean, they fought, and almost literally fought. I mean, they had 9,000 technical fouls in that game. But there was legit fight in those guys. And to your point, your superstar is playing pretty well at the moment. I wouldn't go great, but he's playing pretty darn well at the moment. Colin Chandler's making big plays. He made a couple of huge plays at Arkansas, made a couple of big shots, a big 3, and then a kind of a dagger pull-up jumper late in the game that kind of sealed out. I think he had 18 last night in the win over Oklahoma. And then it's different guys, different times. It's Denzel Aberdeen in a night, and then it's Mo Diabate and Malachi Moreno on a night. Last night, out of the complete blue, it's Brandon Garrison blowing up and having a huge game. And I think that you need that too. You need your star to be a star night in and night out. I don't think Colin Chandler is quite number 2 at the moment. I'd probably pin that on Aberdeen. But Colin Chandler's making a lot of big plays at the moment and contributing in a lot of different ways at the moment. And we've seen that. I mean, Aberdeen carried them for long stretches down at Tennessee. He carried them for a stretch in the St. John's win. Jalen Lowe carried them for that stretch. He's not available at the moment. And then there's still rumblings about Quaintance maybe coming back.
Right. I mean, they've won 7 of their last 8, and that includes a win at LSU, a win at Tennessee, the home win against Texas, a win at Arkansas.
Yeah.
Really, the Vandy game's the only one in the mix where they just looked bad, and the way they've been rounding into form, Skinny, I do feel like we're getting back to the point. I'm not saying they're a Final Four contender like we were talking before the season, but I do think they are all of a sudden looking a lot more like a dangerous team, at least a second weekend type team potentially.
And they're still on the 7 seed line on bracketmatrix.com, but you get another. I don't think they can't beat Florida at Florida. I don't think anybody beats Florida at the moment. Florida actually is rounding itself into being a national contender again, especially with that front line being ridiculous. So I don't think that, but you get a chance. I think it's the last game of the year. They get Florida at home.
Yeah.
That would be such a big booster to me to win that game. Maybe move yourself up a seed line or 2 before that. Maybe work yourself firmly into the 6 seed line. I don't think any of the 3s would scare you at the moment. And so, they're trending certainly in the right direction. It's been a weird year where it feels like there's been times where we're all out on them. We're all back in on them. I wasn't out after the Vandy game. It was very disappointing, but the 2 bounce back wins since then. Listen, Oklahoma's on life support. Obviously, Porter Moser's career is on life support. I mean, they're playing dead man walking for goodness sakes. They're last in the league. So that's a game you have to win. And they did. And,
but they dominated too.
Correct. They're only a half game out of first place in the league. Texas A&M and LSU and Florida are both 7-2. Kentucky sits at 7-3 at the moment. Yeah.
I mean, the home game against Tennessee on Saturday is a big one, I think, because you do have that game at Florida following it the following weekend, which you feel like you're probably not going to win that one. So win the game at home against Tennessee, then win the game at home against Georgia following the Tennessee game that sandwiched in between there. And I think, or the Florida game, and I think you feel really good about where you're at going into the final stretch. And then, I mean, it's the SEC's tough. You're going to play at Auburn, at South Carolina, you're home against Vandy, then you're at Texas A&M, and home against Florida to finish it out. Yeah, it's not an easy stretch, but there are no easy stretches really in this
But also,
conference.
the flip side of that is think about building your resume off of some of those. I mean, you got a chance to really build it here late in the year.
Yeah, that's true. Xavier beat DePaul at the buzzer on Saturday 68-66, then got blown out at UConn 92-60. A fun win. I mean, truly a fun win. It was a game where it was frustrating, hard to watch for a lot of it, I think, for Xavier fans. And then you get that late flurry and the shot making by Filip Borovichinen down the stretch where not once, not twice, but 3 different times you're sitting there going, pass the ball, get rid of it. What are you doing? Get it to Trey Carroll. Great shot. And he wins the game for you at the buzzer. Wild game, but then followed by the sobering reality of what it looks like when you play UConn this year.
Because UConn has the ability to really just mitigate Trey Carroll. And if Trey Carroll gets mitigated, what do you got?
Nothing. And then the crazy thing is watching Xavier try to defend UConn.
It's impossible.
They have no answer for anything they do. They can't guard Terrace Reed inside. They are completely flummoxed by their little misdirection screening patterns that, they act like they're running a football route tree or something in their offense. But like all ultimately amounts to is like multiple guys moving and cutting off of screens at the same time, going different directions, kind of like a reverse floppy action or something. And Xavier can't solve it at all. I mean, guys are just running wide open for threes. They're pick and roll games Xavier can't solve. I mean, there's just really no answer for anything UConn does.
And bottom line is UConn, period, end of story, is just really, really good.
They're awesome. Yeah, I think they're a legit national contender, title contender again this year.
Absolutely.
I think it's hard to say this, but they're flying a little bit under the radar. You haven't really heard them as much.
No, they are. They only lost one game.
Yes.
And it was non-league. I'm drawing a blank. It was somebody decent too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they lost to Arizona.
That's right. Really decent. Yeah.
Yeah. So I that's their only loss, and they've been, they've had some close games recently up until the Creighton and Xavier games back to back, but I felt like that was kind of them signaling like, okay, yeah, had that overtime game against Villanova, had a couple of close calls, but we're doing just fine. And this was them flexing and kind of getting back on track.
Yeah, no, the DePaul win was fun. I mean, honestly, I know they were down 17 the second half, but I think I flipped over to it at 61-47, and I'm like, I'm just going to watch the end of this, and man, this is ugly. And you kept watching DePaul miss makeable shot after makeable shot, have bad possession after bad possession, and Xavier just kept going down and answering and chipping. And momentum just it gets you sometimes.
Well, Skinny, you have that double-digit lead with about 5 minutes to go, DePaul does, and then you start doing the prevent thing, right? Like you start taking your foot off the gas and you're beating Xavier's backcourt pressure, but then you're trying to slow it down in the half court. And you and I both know that's a recipe for disaster. Just go attack, be aggressive. You've been kicking their butt all game, being aggressive. Now you let them pressure the heck out of you. So you're turning the ball over a little bit, but you're not making them pay for that at the other end for getting overextended. Then you still have to score with few seconds left on the shot clock in the half court. Just empty possession. And then the sphincters start tightening up. It gets really hard to operate under those circumstances. Let me ask you about Xavier's.
But real quick, the emotion of that game, though, from taking the 3-point lead to then DePaul goes down and bangs the three, and you're like, they're going to lose this in overtime.
When you didn't foul. Because everyone goes foul. You have fouls to give, and they don't foul somehow and give up the three.
And then Borovichinen, to your point, is like, give it up, man. Give it up. And then he takes just a weird, twisty shot that from the angle on TV, I'm like, oh, that's no good. Because the angle of it was just weird. And all of a sudden you just see it drop in. It's like, oh my gosh, what a play, my man.
Yeah, it really was incredible. And he had done it 3 straight times. I mean, he called his own number on that one where he dribbled out. They had the 1-point lead. He dribbles out nearly the entire shot clock, goes to the elbow, hits a behind the back dribble, step back jumper, puts him up by 3. It's like, what is this guy doing?
Remember I asked you last week on the podcast, what does he do for this team?
Yeah, well, there you go. That's true. We were just ripping him last week, and then he comes through big time for the Musketeers. Let me ask you about their next 5 games. Predict what happens here for Xavier of the next 5. They're at St. John's on Monday, home against Marquette on Saturday, then home against Villanova on Tuesday, at Butler the next Saturday, at Providence the following Tuesday. So at St. John's, home against Marquette, home against Villanova, at Butler, at Providence. What do they go during that 5-game stretch?
2-3 at worst, in my opinion, and maybe 3-2.
Okay, so you're thinking they beat Marquette and one of Butler or Providence?
Yeah, correct. And beat Villanova at home. Both those at home. Get the two home games and then steal one of those other two on the road. You're not beating St. John's at St. John's. We can cross that out.
I don't think they're beating Villanova at home, but we will see how that goes. Currently, Ken Pom has that at a 29% chance for Xavier win, 77-71 predicted score in favor of Villanova. NKU lost at Detroit 90-77 over the weekend, lost at Oakland 76-65 over the weekend, and then just Wednesday night, they lost at home to Green Bay in overtime, 87-84. It's getting a frustrating weekend for the Norse, frustrating week for the Norse. They're dealing with a lot of injuries right now. But let me just start the segment with this. Does this team get to a point with its inconsistencies and its inability to finish games down the stretch where you just look at it and you say, they're not going to be capable of winning 3 or 4 straight games in the conference tournament?
That's a fair point, but it feels like you're in so many of these that all it does take is 2 possessions on either end of the floor to turn things around. I don't think that's a giant ask. Now, the question is, I go back to this, what can be tweaked to fix some of these end of game situations, or not get yourself into a spot where you're having to mount a comeback or make play. I mean, sometimes it is just a weird bounce of the ball. Sometimes it is just a bad rotation. Sometimes it is missing a wide open shot that you go, those are all fixable or doable. It's not like I need to get a complete infusion of talent here. They feel so close yet so far away because there are nothing for moral victories. I mean, you get credit for wins and losses, and that's about it. But you also can look and go, you're not that far away.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, you're sitting there saying, like, what can be tweaked? And it's like, it feels like it's something different every game. Like at the end of the Green Bay game, they don't grab a defensive rebound that leads to a second chance 3 that forces overtime. That's like incredibly frustrating. That happens. Then in overtime, there's a play where they let the ball fly up the court. They foul within 3 seconds when it's like they've got the lead. They're kind of in control. That allows Green Bay to make a play. And then the final shot, the game-winning shot, they've got 2 of their better defenders out guarding a ball screen situation. They both go with the roll man initially and leave the shooter open for the 3 that's going to beat you. They give up a wide open 3.
That's total lack of communication.
Lack of communication. But these are things that it's not like a tweak or something you need to make. That's just basketball IQ stuff that you work on all the time. You've been in that situation a million times and how you defend it, and you just kind of lose your head in the moment. It feels like that keeps happening to this team, whether it's silly fouls, whether it's not guarding a 3-point shooter when you're supposed to. At a certain point, that's kind of who you are, I think. And, Donovan O'Day, he's one of the most entertaining athletes I've ever watched for any of the teams that I've followed. I mean, he is truly, in my opinion, the best player in the Horizon League right now. To your point, they're in all these games, and you have a guy that looks like the best player in the league. You feel like you should have a chance. But that's the way I feel every game right now, and they continue to lose them. The injuries are certainly playing a big role, but man, it's getting frustrating. It's late early, I guess.
Yeah, you put yourself in a seed spot in the league for the conference tournament, where the mountain to climb for that, not just winning 4 games, but who you're going to probably have to beat in those 4 games.
Well, and that's the problem. It went from you want a top 3 seed,
right,
to now, okay, that's not looking real likely. Can you get a top 5 seed just to have a home game in the first round? And now that's very much in question. Now teams are all jumbled up, so you can go anywhere from like 4th to 9th probably still.
They're 2 games out of the loss column though from 5th, and it's getting late. I mean, that's the problem making that ground up.
You're right. So, I mean, there's a good chance you could go on the road and never even see Indy this year. You'd be on the road in the first round and potentially take a loss. So, yeah, they've really either got to make up some ground or hopefully they just get healthy at the right time and catch fire.
One more question that only you and I will care about because we're the only 2 that probably talk a lot of Horizon League basketball whatsoever. Is your boy Doug Gottlieb the coach of the year?
Man, he's got to be in the conversation. It'll depend on how they finish because they were really struggling coming into that NKU game. That was a big win for them.
They're game over 500 overall. I think they're 8-6 in the league now, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're third in the league now, 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, whatever. Give him coach of the year. I don't care. I just want NKU to win games. I really don't care about Doug Gottlieb.
A frustrated Rick Brewing. Everybody.
Farthest thing from my mind right now. I know everyone wants to talk about Rick Brewing. Ken Pom is awesome. Cincinnati lost at Houston 76-54. They host West Virginia tonight at 7.
I don't want to make excuses, but injuries, man. I don't want to make excuses, but injuries.
Hey, I get it. I'm right there with them. I'm making the excuses for them. I feel the same way about the Norse right now. Keyshawn Tillery had 14 points, was 3 of 4 from deep against Houston, had 4 turnovers. But here's the problem, Skinny, right now, I think, for UC fans. It's hard to even enjoy breakout performances by your freshman guard off the bench because everyone's expecting a coaching change. And so you just feel like
that's all you're waiting for.
That guy's not going to be around. I mean,
right. I got to look this up, Rick, because it's a real possibility. And maybe it's more recent than I think, but neither one of it. When is the last time UC and Xavier had losing records in the same season?
Oh, yeah, I have no idea.
You got to go back to the early 80s probably, right? Late 70s, early 80s? I would assume.
I mean, Xavier's had, what, 2 of them now since the 90s or something like that? So,
and UC just had did he have 200 Mick? I mean, obviously his first team was a mess just because of what the roster he had.
Yeah, but Xavier never had a losing season.
Right, no, that's why. That's my point. I'm just trying to think of any of those other. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's got to be back in the 80s at least.
Yeah.
I'm not the right person to ask about that. I mean,
they've got West Virginia as we do this tonight at home. There's not a lot of winnable games left. I mean, this is one, if you want to try to salvage that above 5, you have to have this one tonight. And again, just from Rousing. Now, we've seen this before. We've talked about this. They have these performances where they get their teeth kicked in. And listen, even if they're at full strength, you can go to Houston and get your teeth kicked in because they're good. They're legit good. And you're not. And so that part, they've had these bounce back performances. You better have one, as we do this on a Thursday tonight, or your road to hoe is going to be ugly to finish out this regular season.
Yeah, and I mean, to some extent, I feel a little bit with Xavier and Cincinnati. It's like we're just kind of playing out the string right now. There's not a lot to talk about with either of these teams. And it's like you want to say, yeah, you need to win this game against West Virginia tonight, but if you don't, what happens? Like ultimately, what changes? Absolutely nothing. We're just going to be talking about Wes Miller getting fired next week too.
That's all it is. That's literally all it is.
And if you win this game, then you lose the next one. You're going to go right back to this stinks. Let's fire Wes. You know, how quickly can we get him out of here? Who's the next coach? So
I mean, I think
it's just hard to talk about both teams right now.
It is. It really is. You know who's not hard to talk about? Those undefeated Miami Redhawks, baby. Keep rolling along. Right.
I got nothing new on them this week. I do have an Ask Any Anything question for you that I think is worth asking right now, though.
Okay, let's do it.
Focusing on the 4 teams you guys cover regularly, UC, XU, UK, and NKU. If UC fires Wes and gets a new head coach, that will have been one local coaching change for each of the last 3 years. Huh. How many years will we go before we have another one?
That's a great question. I'll go 3. UC probably won't be in that camp. Xavier very well could be. And believe it or not, despite what Mark Pope's trending towards going to the NCAA tournament for a second straight year, things have been rocky at times. I mean, there were a lot of people calling for his ouster this year, right? And let's just say he goes to the tournament, they lose early, they lose quickly, and next year doesn't work out good. I mean, he's right back in that hot seat, in my opinion. And you're getting closer to whatever his buyout number would be at that point. He'd be 3 years deep, going to 40. I'll say 3 years.
All right. That's a good question.
It is a great question. What do you think?
I have no idea. Like it.
I mean, I'm just trying to give an answer. It's probably not a good answer.
It's an interesting thought though, because like it does feel like how we handle these things is changing now. I'm wondering if there are going to be smaller buyouts. I know the agents aren't going for that, but it feels like the schools want to get rid of these guys after 2 years if they don't work out anymore.
I can't imagine the next UC coach gets a buyout that like Wes Miller has. There's no way. You
wouldn't think so. You know, the one thing everyone keeps talking about, Jared,
yourself in such a jeopardy in that regard. And that's why I can't believe more colleges won't come. I don't want to say collude on it, but come to the point of all of them coming to that conclusion of, we're not going to put a big buyout in here. To hell with you. We'll hire Fred and we'll put more money in NIL. Fred's just, I mean, that's the thing. I tell people that there's not a lot of difference in coaches. There are some that are elite, but there's not a lot of difference in coaches.
Yeah. Give any charismatic, good-looking guy the right resources, and he's going to be a good college basketball coach for the most part. Like that's what it comes down to, resources more than anything now, and it always has, but now more so than ever. There are differences about how guys build culture and things like that, and guys that relate to players within a locker room. That does matter. I'm not acting like it doesn't at all, but to your point, there's not a ton of separation. All of these guys have a certain level of that stuff, the charisma, the X and O stuff. They got to the Division I level somehow, some way. And if we're talking about the high major level, then they certainly have some juice as a leader. If you have that, then give them the resources more so than anything. Like, we were talking about Jared Calhoun a lot out at Utah State, potentially being the next UC coach. And it's like, I was just like, he's got I think over a $4 million buyout too, if you want to do something with it here. So it's like, are you paying Wes 4.5 or whatever,
and this
4.9 and 4. And that's just to get the right to hire him. Now you still got to pay him next year. I don't know. And again, the other part about the buyouts is we've learned over the last few years, it's more about how the buyout is structured than what the buyout number is, right?
True.
Like $50 million sounds huge, but if it's dispersed over 8 years and you pay it annually over time and there's an offset clause based on your next job, then that's not as big of a deal versus if you owe everything 90 days after you cut ties and it's all due up front like that at once in a lump sum, that's a totally different ballgame, right?
Yeah, and if you don't have an offset clause like they didn't have with Mark Stoops in Kentucky, which was the dumbest thing ever, so then they had to negotiate.
Well, Mark Stoops kind of opened up our eyes to all of that, right?
Yeah,
like his buyout was a real prohibitive buyout, and a lot of other guys were fine. Like James Franklin didn't really have, even though it's a huge dollar amount, it's not as prohibitive as it sounds.
Correct.
All right, let's switch gears to the Bengals, Skinny.
Yes.
So we were talking about my Pro Bowl party before we got on here. Did you actually get a chance to watch any of the Pro Bowl, or were you just
not one
hanging out
flipping,
partying?
not one flipping second, not a chance. Yeah. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Seriously. It's just unnecessary. You don't have to do it. You can just name a team.
Correct. It is totally unnecessary. I'm telling you.
Shador Sanders does not need to be called a Pro Bowler. Joe Flacco does not need to call a Pro Bowler. Like, we're good.
And especially with the investment you have in these guys. Can you imagine a guy suffering an injury in a silly-ass flag football game? Can you just imagine that?
We've got Jamar Chase playing defense, running back pick sixes. Like, I'm all good. I'm set on that.
Yeah. No, thank you. If you watched it, good for you. But it's funny, Rick. I knew the game was on that night, and I didn't even consider flipping it on for 1 second. I didn't care.
No, I think that was the night Xavier was getting their brains beaten in by UConn.
I think that's
and
right.
A couple of Xavier fans mentioned that they were so disgusted by Xavier they did turn on the Pro Bowl, which is
you got to be really
sad state of Xavier basketball.
Yeah, you got to be really disgusted at that point, bro.
Yeah, that ain't good for the Musketeers. One of the things that always happens with the Pro Bowl, Super Bowl week is all the media stuff that comes out. The players are there doing interviews, doing some sponsor reads or whatever. What do you think about Jay Glazer throwing out the possibility of the Bengals making a trade for Raiders defensive end Maxx Crosby?
I don't think they can financially feasibly do that. I just don't see it. If you're going to do that, you're probably not going to be able to do anything else to fix your roster this offseason.
Yeah, so you think that, people are obviously get all excited about the big names. I've seen other Maxx big Crosby names attached to the Bengals. Right. You just think that's probably not likely to happen this offseason?
I just don't see that. Again, you've got so many things you've got to fix that one big name, big contract guy is not going to fix it. They do need to invest in a defensive end, but you also need a defensive tackle who can rush the passer, and you maybe need a veteran linebacker to help the two kids. And you're in the market for a corner to be a slot and potentially a backup. You need a starting safety. You need too much to just make one big splash move, in my opinion.
Does a Jamar Chase and T. Higgins podcast do anything for you?
Nope. No.
You're not going to give it a listen?
Nope.
You're not going to try?
Nope. Yeah, no.
All right, fair enough.
I can't, no.
And that was talking about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins' new podcast.
Well,
that was a good segment. A new segment we're doing.
Are you going to listen to it?
Yeah, I think I'll give it a try. I would say I'm not very excited about it. I don't have a lot of hopes for it, but I thought Jamar showed a little bit of he was more interesting than Joe Burrow was during that documentary thing they did. So I'm willing to give him a chance on a podcast, see if he's willing to be an interesting athlete. We haven't seen that much from these two guys from a media perspective, really.
No, Jamar, they tried Jamar out once a week during the season on Thursdays. T selectively talks to the media. He's a very polite guy. He just doesn't he hates doing it. So that's doing it. Right. So that was kind of more where I was coming at this from. I'm surprised these two are doing this. They don't seem like they like media stuff. Oh no, Jamar, like I said, he does a weekly press conference. So obviously and to his credit, man, after every game at his locker, he basically tells you when he's going to go, but he goes, and it's. Sure, but
my point is, I didn't get the sense they were Ocho Cinco and wanting to do streaming and podcasts and stuff on their own. This surprised me a little bit that they're like, yeah, we need to start our own podcast, doing our own thing on off days. I'm curious to see what the idea for this is going to be in terms of content, or is it just going to be them talking about nothing?
Yeah, that would be my fear.
All right, Super Bowl. We've got let's set up our pick'em first of all, because we haven't talked about this in forever. It's a 6-game spread. It's 50 and 56 you, 56 and 50 me. We've got Sunday at 6:30, Patriots and Seahawks. Seahawks are a 4.5-point favorite. The total is 45.5. We also decided before we did this podcast that we're going to give you 3 prop bets: an anytime touchdown scorer, an MVP, and a favorite prop. And I guess we'll just count this as like one win and add it to our pick 'em, so it makes it a little bit more exciting.
Okay.
First of all, what do you got for the game and the total, Skinny?
I think it's going to be low scoring. I know that's probably easy to say because it's two good defenses, but it is. It is two good defenses. I'm going to go Seattle 20, New England 17. So New England covers. So you got different ways. I'm going to do this, Blair. I'm going to do two parlays, and then I'm going to do some prop bets. I'm going to do a Seattle money line under parlay, and I'm going to do a New England plus the points under parlay.
Say that again. You're going to do what?
Seattle money line and the under 2-team parlay, and then New England plus the points under 2-team parlay. And I got a 4.5 point spread to play with.
So you're trying to middle it.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, what's that? So what is your actual pick for the sake of our pick 'em though? Because that doesn't.
I gave it. I said 2017 Seattle. So New England and the under.
New England and the under, which is exactly what I'm on, unfortunately. I've got the Patriots to win outright. I'm going 21-17 Patriots and the under. Who do you like for your anytime touchdown score?
I'm going to go Kenneth Walker.
Do you know what his odds were by any chance?
I don't. Hang on. Let me.
That's all right.
No, I can get it. Just give me a second. I've got them right here. Score specials, game specials, player specials. We got anytime touchdowns.
I'm going with Jackson Smith-Njigba at -110, by the way. He hasn't scored in 2 games. That's the longest stretch all season for him. He doesn't have 3 games without a touchdown. So
the one thing about the Super Bowl on my app, my score app, is it gives you so many specials. Okay, here we go. Total touchdowns. Kenneth Walker is -175.
All right, -175. I've got Jackson Smith-Njigba at -110. So those are anytime touchdown scores. Who is your MVP pick, Skinny?
All right, so let's play a game here for just a second.
All right.
And maybe we can add. Well, as I said, we could add to our total to kind of do. Let's take $50 and spread it around. Are you ready?
MVP picks?
Yeah, you can pick whoever. You can put your 50 on one guy if you want. Hang on, I lost it. Here we go. Give me 1 second because I'm going to spread this around. All right, I got $50. I'm going to put 12 of it on Jackson Smith-Njigba at 5-1. That would get me $60 plus my bet back, so I'd win a little bit of money there. I'm going to put, believe it or not, actually, you know what? No, I'm going to put 20 on JSN. That'll give me $100 back. So I'll put 20 there. I'm going to put 10 on Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback for New England. He's plus 10,000 to 1.
I actually like that. I want a defensive player for New England, so that might be where I go.
I'm going to do the same thing on Nick Emenwari, the safety for Seattle. So it's probably going to have to be a pick 6 of some kind for somebody to do it. So I'm going to go. He's at 70. He's at plus 7,500. So I'm going to put $10 on him, and I got one more defensive player. I'm going to put $10 on Leonard Williams at plus 1,000 to 1. The 2 quarterbacks. I mean, Sam Darnold's plus 115, Drake May's plus 250. It's usually a quarterback, and that's actually pretty good value for quarterbacks, believe it or not, because usually they're minus odds. Those are pretty decent numbers. Yeah, I think JSN will be the one that makes Sam Darnold look good, not the other way around. And I just don't know if Drake May's team wins, so I can't pick him to win this.
Yeah, to me, Drake May is the easy pick because I'm picking the Patriots to win, and if that happens, and you get the quarterback at plus 200, over 200 odds, I'm rolling with that pick right there. So I feel great about just going with Drake May. I do like the idea though of going with a Patriots defensive player because I could see it being a low-scoring game, and I like the Patriots to win. I wouldn't mind having a defensive player for a potential defensive touchdown. That's just really hard to pick. The thing about JSN that you brought up with Seattle is he sometimes has a huge game when Darnold doesn't even play that well because he's so dependent on him as a receiver that it's like if Darnold plays well and they win, that could still be a JSN MVP game. So I do not like Darnold at all. In fact, I think I saw it was Darnold or the field. You could get the field at minus 155. I like those odds pretty well.
I do too. Yeah, I like those odds too.
All right. What about, do you have any other favorite props?
I do. I'm going to take Drake May under 40 yards rushing, basically at even money.
It's really high. I wanted to take his over on rushing because I'm thinking he's just your best athlete. He's your best player on offense. It's a Super Bowl. He'll lay it all out there. But 40 yards is insane to me.
Yeah, I think officially, if you did just him alone, there's one where you can do a prop and it has 10-yard increments.
Yeah.
I think his is officially, I think it's 37
and a half.
37 and a half. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take that under there.
Yeah, that's just way too high.
And I heard a guy give a great example. I like that anyway already until I heard a guy on a show over the weekend as I was driving, and that was like one of his favorite props. I'm like, oh, cool. And I'm thinking, okay, I wonder why. And he made a good point. Seattle plays a lot of zone defense. Scrambling, a lot of times big scramble runs happen because you break through the pocket against man coverage. Everybody's got their back to the quarterback, and he's got room to run. In Seattle, maybe you don't have quite as much room to run.
Yeah, now you're going to be terrified if they're down late and they're like dropping, that right. you sometimes get like the 20-yard quarterback scramble because they're all just back trying to take away your deep threats. And
that's been a big part of his game.
One.
I mean, he's been great running the football in the playoffs. It's just...
I was thinking it was going to be like 23 and a half yards, and I was going to be all over the over on that. When I saw 37, I was like, I'm just staying off this. Yeah. I don't want to bet it because I do think he'll run, but 40 is just too much.
What's your favorite?
I'm going to go with the first half under 23 and a half.
Ooh, okay.
I just think I can get 3 touchdowns in the first half of play and still stay under the total. With these two teams, the way they're built, I don't see a shootout. I don't see these two teams coming out, scoring an early touchdown and be like, we got to keep pace here. Right. I think they're both going to try to run the football, try to win with defense, play conservatively. I feel even if you get an early touchdown, I feel good about being able to stay under that number in the first half.
Yeah, I think for both these teams, their main goal is to stay out of third and long. I mean, just stay out of third and long, put yourself in third and manageables, and you do that by running the football.
Right. So I'm not saying that the total couldn't end up being high. Like I think these teams have enough talent that like the score could get up there. So I don't love the total for the entire game, but first half, I think you feel really good about staying under.
And I'll be honest, I don't have the stat in front of me. I gave it out last week or 2 weeks ago for the championship game when I thought Seattle would keep the game under against the Rams. The only team in the last 12 games that has done anything offensively against the Seattle defense was the Rams. I mean, they've locked up. I mean, not just stopped. They've locked up everybody else other than the Rams. That just shows you the Rams were obviously a very good offense, and they are. It's just an opponent they have a hard time with because they're good. But everybody else, they have just shut them down. And New England is serviceable offensively. Drake May's been great, but they don't have great weapons. They just don't.
No, but that's part of why I just hope this game is close because I don't think it's going to be an exciting game.
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game.
Yeah, that's what I want because I hope that the finish is entertaining because I don't think it's going to be like a high flying, we get a lot of big plays type of game. I think it's going to be conservative, smash mouth, running the football type play for 3.5 quarters probably.
Yeah.
All right. Ask Skinny anything. We got a couple more here. We asked the college basketball one already. I've got 2 Super Bowl questions from the same guy. He says, does Skinny have a favorite Super Bowl?
That's a good question. Let me go back through my mind here. Try to think if there's any. Maybe it was the Washington blowout over Denver back in the 80s, the Doug Williams, Timmy Smith one, just because of. I remember I wrote a column of why Washington was going to win, how they were going to win. I wrote it for Daily Paper in Maysville, Kentucky, where who cares about my opinion, but I still did it because it's what I was
columnist.
Doing. Yeah, correct. And I nailed it. I mean, I literally nailed it. And I thought, okay, you are a genius. Of course, I'm not. I've learned that over time. I'm clearly not that. But that's probably my favorite because I nailed why they were going to win and going to win big.
Man, Clem and Danny K and all the boys were getting their coffee the next morning going, that darn Skinny sure got it, didn't he?
He sure did, yep. He
had that one pegged. Love his columns.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it feels like they all have run together. It feels like all the Patriots ones ran together. I don't know why that is. It just feels like they all ran together.
The funny one, the only one that sticks out to me is the Giants one that they lost.
Right.
That's the only memorable game, I feel like.
No, I mean, I will say the year Scott Norwood missed the field goal, I mean, that was a pretty memorable Super Bowl because it came down to that.
Yeah. I'm trying. What year was that?
80 or 90 or 91.
Oh, yeah, that's too early. I thought you were talking about the Patriots.
Well, in the Vinatieri field goal, I mean, there have been some obviously close ones, but it feels like they've all run together.
Yeah. Start, bench, cut.
Yep.
These are snacks, okay? Start, bench, cut for your Super Bowl party.
Yes.
Chips and dip.
Okay.
Chicken wings. Pizza rolls / bagel bites.
Ooh.
He did say in parentheses, chips and dips can be any types of chips or
Yeah,
dip.
I know that. I'm going to start chicken wings. That's a must. I'm going to bench pizza rolls, and I'm going to cut the chips and dip.
Wow.
In fact, I've done this lately, Rick, and I feel healthier for it. It's probably not. So we do usually have a thing of French onion dip in the house. And
I can't wait to see where this is going.
It's funny. I don't eat chips a lot. I don't make a lot of sandwiches for lunch very often. If I eat lunch, it's usually some bad can of soup. I'm just not a lunch guy for the most part. And occasionally, I'll make a ham sandwich once every couple of weeks and have some chips and dip with it. But I was hankering for a snack the other night before I was going to make dinner. I just got home from basketball practice. I hadn't eaten all day. I'm like, I don't really want to make dinner yet because I got to cook it. I was home, like, I just want to snack. And I grabbed the chips and grabbed the dip. I'm like, no, you know what? We got the baby carrots. The baby carrots and the French onion dip. I felt better for doing that.
Okay, that's not at all where I thought you were going. That actually is a healthy alternative to chips.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. It's just like dipping them in ranch, sort of.
Yeah.
But
it was. Yeah, I've done it before. It's just like it almost dawned on me, like I can still have my glob of French onion dip, but let me just do it with a vegetable. Let's do that instead.
There you go. You're a health freak.
Oh, I am a freak.
Yeah, I would do the exact opposite. Chips and dips is my starter for sure. I can't do to me, that's just the easiest thing. No matter what I'm doing, if I'm at like a get together to watch a game, I want the chips and dip because you can kind of pick at it. You don't have to if I'm doing wings, I got to sit down there and commit to eating like a plate of wings, getting my hands messy, washing them afterwards. Like
there's no question.
All of that. The pizza rolls and bagel bites would be my bench. I'd cut chicken wings. I love chicken wings, but I'm cutting them at a Super Bowl party.
Okay. That's probably a fair point because they are messy. But I just.
Yeah, and I'm not someone who likes to sit down and eat a meal at a party like that. I like to just kind of pick as I'm I talk to someone, then at that conversation ends, I go eat 3 chips.
So
and I'm back in the mix.
Whether we have my daughter or son-in-law over, or we go to their house, it's usually kind of you've got wings, mozzarella sticks, usually chips and dips or a vegetable plate with a dip, and then hanky-pankies.
That's a good lineup. Yeah,
I love me a good hanky-panky.
Yeah. It is different too if you're like sitting at your house or at a close family member's house where you're just going to be sit down and then I'm eating a plate, I'm fine, versus I'm moving around talking to different people and there's 10 to 20 people in the house, right?
No, that's a fair point.
Different circumstances, I think.
Yeah. So we both bench the pizza rolls. That feels like that's a safe benching to me.
Yeah, you got to have them, but they're not like my first choice. They're not the first thing I'm going to probably.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Love it. All right. Appreciate it very much. We will be back next week as we march on in the college basketball season. Reds pitchers and catchers will have reported. We're going to be a couple of weeks from the NFL scouting combine. I've got an exercise I'm doing at local12.com trying to rebuild this Bengals roster in the offseason, and it's been very painstaking. It's been hard to do when you do the finances of it. So we'll talk about that next week because it'll be up at some point on local12.com. For Rick Brewing, I'm Richard Skinner. It's been the Skinny Podcast, the weekly Potpourri edition presented by Blake, the Attorney Maislin.